Welcome knitters. We're going to make this really cute little bag that just flips open and has all your little contents inside. This bag starts with some 1x1 rib. Then we're going to move into this really pretty little ice block stitch pattern that only uses knits and purls. Then I am going to show you how to do this I-cord bind off. At the very end for finishing, I'm going to show you how to do 2 mattress stitch seams. This is a fairly simple project. It's good for a beginner who wants a little bit of a challenge. You're going to need about 20 grams of DK weight yarn. Again, solid spun, solid color, mid to light tone would be best to show this beautiful stitch pattern. I used a size 3 needle to get gauge, but you're welcome to use any needle size that it takes for you to get similar to gauge. You're going to want a set of double points in the needle size that you chose to do the I-cord bind off, in addition to the needle that you are actually doing the work on. Yarn needle, scissors, 2 stitch markers. And that's it. If you want, my pattern's on Ravelry, so you can go ahead and download it. It's called the Winter Ice Block Bag, and that'll give you all the written directions. But of course, please knit along in the videos. And again, I ask that if possible, you would watch these videos beginning to end several times if necessary. That just really helps me with the algorithms and hopefully helps me get a little traction in the YouTube world. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, let's go ahead and get started. For this project, we are working back and forth in rows. So that means you can use a circular needle if you want to, or you can use a straight needle. But this is a relatively narrow project. We're only going to be working on about 4 inches left to right. So any needle will really suffice in this case. Just find a needle that you like that you can get gauge in. The gauge for this project is going to be 13 stitches for 2 inches or 6.5 stitches per inch. And it is not a critical project to get an exact gauge. I think most people will be able to work with the end results, whether it be a little larger or possibly even a little smaller. But I encourage you to always, please look for gauge. You'll get the best results. If you want that exact duplicate copy of what I'm making, go find that gauge. We are going to be casting on 27 stitches for this project. 25 of those stitches are going to be pattern stitches, and then the remaining 2 will simply be selvage stitches. We're going to work those selvage stitches into the pattern initially, and then you will see how this plays out. Let's get started with casting on. We're doing a long tail cast on, and you're going to want to leave about 20 inches for the tail. So measure that off, and at that point, that's going to be where you're going to start doing your long tail cast on, your first twisty stitch. Again, if you have done a long tail cast on before, great. And if not, I encourage you to go look at my quick start video, or even go ahead and take another look at another project I've done, such as the January headband. Coming in from the back and doing a quick rotation. This is my first stitch. Taking my diamond, dropping it down for my rabbit ears. I'm going to slide up the thumb and then go around the back of the first finger stitch and through the loop. I'm going to drop my thumb and then tighten it side to side. Do you see how wide I'm pulling my fingers? I'm not pulling down, but side to side. Okay, let's go back up the thumb for third stitch, pulling that through the loop and tightening it. And that is all the long tail cast on is. Here's a really good word of caution. In order to make that cast on row not too tight, you want to make sure that you place the same amount of distance between each of these stitches on the cast on row. So I'm not putting them right up against each other. I'm leaving a nice distance or space. You can see if our tail starts to unply itself, you can just drop it off your thumb and it will want to spin right back into place. 25, 26, 27. All right, that's That's all we need. Stretch them out a little bit and just make sure that they do have an equal space between the stitches. It's nice just to tie a little half hitch knot at the beginning. That just keeps this last cast on stitch from loosening up. And now we are ready to go. Let's just take a look at our cast on row and point out one or two things. Number one, we have this little braided edge right here. This is the right side of the row. Let's just take a look at that. That's the right side. And if I turn it over, these bumps are the purls that are on the back of the cast on row. That means this is the wrong side of the work. So we want to keep track of what is the wrong side and what is the right side of the work. I've written up the pattern, so I've given you right side rows and wrong side rows. Just every once in a while, double check and make sure you're on the correct side. We're going to start doing a 1x1 rib pattern for about 3/4 of an inch. And of course, a long tail cast on is actually worked as a cast on and row 1. So when we turn it over and we're heading back on our first actual row of work, this is going to be a purl row. This is a wrong side row. So we're going to work a wrong side row rib. We're going to start with a purl one, then a knit one. Just going to alternate knit and purl the entire way down the row, all 27 stitches. And because we're dealing with an odd number of stitches, I'm going to end on the same stitch that I started on, which is a purl. Turning it over, I'm going to work the right side of the row. So in this case, I'm going to work what I see, or because I'm starting on a knit side, which is the right side, the first stitch is going to be knitted, and then the second stitch purled. Just working those knits and purls in a way that maintains those stitch columns and gives you that really beautiful rib. Again, if I see a knit, and that's a knit stitch right there, I'm just going to knit it. And if I see a purl, which is that little knob right there, I'm going to purl it. Makes it really simple. So that's 2 rows. Let's go on to the 3rd row. Again, this is the wrong side row, and you can see those initial purls right here. So I'm going to purl the first and last stitches. My rib is going to start with a purl and end with a purl. Back onto the right side of the work, starting with a knit, ending with a knit. We're going to be doing a rib stitch for approximately 3/4 of an inch. We started on the wrong side row and we're going to end with a wrong side row. I just finished with a right side row. And it looks like I have just a little bit more to go. So I am definitely going to do one more row to make sure I get to my 3/4 of an inch, but really more importantly, to make sure I am landing on that I'm ending with a wrong side row. I've just finished a wrong side row. You can see these purls running right along this bottom edge. So I know that's the wrong side, and I need to end this section with a wrong side row, which I've just done. I've just completed the wrong side, so then I'm going to end. My next row is going to be on the right side, which is exactly where I want it to be. Let's see how many inches we've done. Right now I've got my 3/4 of an inch, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Just so you know, for me, that was the cast on plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows. We are now ready to start our stitch pattern. I am starting that on a right side row, and I'm checking the right side as I come right along the edge. I'm just seeing that little braided right side of the cast on row. Again, the back of that cast on row is going to give you a bunch of purls, and this would be the wrong side. So I am ready to start the right side with the stitch pattern. Row 1, the right side row, we are going to knit 1 stitch, and then we're going to place a marker. And then I am going to purl all the stitches until the very last stitch. I'm just purling all of these all the way until I have 1 stitch left to go. I'm going to place a second marker, and I am going to knit that last stitch. So in this row 1 of the stitch pattern, the first stitch is knitted and the last stitch is knitted, and all the ones in between are purled. Row 2, we are working on the wrong side of the work. We're going to purl the first and the last stitches, which are outside of the marker. If you do not need the markers to remind you, you don't need to leave them in, but sometimes they help us remember where the selvages are. I'm going to slip the marker over onto the other needle, and now I'm going to repeat this short little pattern repeat, which is knit 4, purl 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, purl 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, purl 1. I just made a change. I am going to switch out and just actually remove the cables entirely, put point protectors on the back end of these little short, basically now double pointed needles or tiny little short straights as I'm currently using them. I'm going to knit 4. And purl 1. And I should always end at the end of a repeat at the marker. My repeat for this row 2 was to knit 4, purl 1, knit 4, purl 1, knit 4, purl 1, knit 4, purl 1, knit 4, purl 1. I should complete that 5-stitch pattern repeat at the marker. If I have stitches left over, or if I don't have enough stitches to complete a section, then I've miscounted somewhere in here or perhaps dropped a stitch. I'm going to slip that marker, and now because I'm on a wrong side row, I'm going to purl this last stitch. So I started this wrong side row with a purl and I ended it with a purl. Every wrong side row, these 2 selvage stitches are going to be purled, and every right side row, these 2 selvage stitches are going to be knitted. So we're just going to keep it that way. Should be pretty straightforward. Let's move on to row 3. I'm on a right side row, so I'm going to knit the first and last stitches outside the markers. I'm going to slip the marker, and now I'm going to work the repeat of knit 2, purl 3. Knit 2, purl 3. Knit 2, purl 3. That's just a little 5-stitch repeat. All the rows have a little 5-stitch repeat. Keeps it really simple. And there's my purl 2, the end of the repeat. Slip the marker. I'm on the right side row, so I'm just going to knit that stitch, that last stitch. Let's turn it over and work row 4, which is a wrong side row. I'm on the wrong side, so purling that selvage stitch. And now I'm going to work the same repeat I did on the other side, which is knit 2, purl 3. Knit 2, purl 3. knit 2, purl 1, 2, 3. I'm on the wrong side of my work. Slip the marker, purl that selvage stitch. Back to the right side of my work. I'm on row 5. Knit that first stitch, slip the marker, and I'm going to repeat knit 4, purl 1, which is the same thing I did at the very first row. So knit 1, 2, 3, 4, purl 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, purl 1. Slip the marker, check to make sure we're on the right side. So I'm just going to knit this last stitch. I just have one more row to go to complete this pattern. I'm going to flip it over and we're going to work a wrong side row, which is really easy. This is the easiest row yet. I am just going to purl all the stitches, including the selvage stitches, because I'm on the wrong side of the work. So all of these are going to be purled. And this last one, that edge stitch, that selvage stitch, will also be purled because it's on the wrong side of the work. Okay, starting to see a little bit of a pattern here. I hope you can see, maybe starting to understand why it's called the ice block bag, the winter ice block bag, because what you have here are these little squares of pattern, and I'm using blue yarn, so it looks a little bit like ice blocks, but then the real textural pattern that you're getting is twofold. Number one, you're getting the squares. You're also getting 2 triangles within the square. So the squares are divided catty corner, and there's a purl triangle and a knit triangle. And because of the way that the knit columns are followed up with a purl column right here, it gives you this little 3-dimensional effect where the squares seem to want to pop out and roll up onto each other a little bit. When we start the next pattern, you're also going to see a layering effect that takes place. So I think this is a really pretty little pattern, very, very simple to do. There are only 6 different rows, and really within those 6 different rows, there are only 3 different directions. There are 2 rows of purls between the markers. There are 2 rows where you're to knit 4, purl 1, and there are 2 rows where you knit 2, purl 3. Makes it really simple. Each one of those rows is going to be done on a different side of the work though. So you're going to purl on the right side, you're also going to purl on the wrong side. You're going to knit 4, purl 1 on the right side and knit 4, purl 1 on the wrong side. And you're also going to knit 2, purl 3 on the right side and knit 2, purl 3 on the wrong side. And because of the right side versus wrong side, it's going to give you this really pretty pattern. So it's not much to remember, but it's a lot of value and visual impact. I'm going to start the right side again. You can see I'm still on the right side. If you have any questions, you could put a removable stitch marker on the right side of your work to make sure that you know what's what, because you don't want to mix it up. If you do, you're going to start to notice that. So make sure that you mark that if there's any question. Again, the little kind of twisted braided edge is the right side of the cast on row. And when I turn it over, now I see all these little purls at the bottom of my rib, right along the top of my cast on row. That is going to be the telltale sign that you're looking at the back versus the front. Let's do the whole pattern, repeat again, and this time let's look for some specific details so that I'm not tied to the pattern, but I can start looking and doing what I see here. Row 1, now you already know that every time we're on a right side row, you're going to knit the 2 stitches either side of the marker. Those are selvage stitches. And every time we're on a wrong side row, you're going to purl those 2 stitches either side of the marker. So that's easy. I'm on a right side row, which is a row 1. So I'm going to knit and slip. And now this is my first row where I'm going to purl all those stitches between the markers. So let's just go down the way and purl them all. This purl row resets my pattern. And after I get a couple of these repeats done, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Kind of wipes it clean, and we start a new pattern repeat. Slip that marker. I'm on a right side, so I'm going to knit it. Once I have that full row of purls on the right side of my work, now I'm going to start creating these little triangle shapes within the square. I'm on the back, so selvage stitch, purl it, slip the marker, and now I'm looking at a whole row of knits. If I tug these purls down a little bit, you can see that whole row of knits hiding back there. Of course, that row of knits was created by this row of purls on the other side. This is my knit 4, purl 1 row. So I'm on the wrong side, and I'm going to knit the first 4 and then purl the 5th. Purl that 5th. I'm going to knit the 4 and purl the 5th. Let's just take a moment and look at something here. We have a lot of knits and purls all over back here, but what really stands out to me are 5 particular knit or mostly knit columns. If you can see this, you have this knit column here, this knit column here, this tall one here, this knit column, and this knit column. And those on this side really stand out to me. On the other side, we also have columns that stand out. And again, these are these knit columns. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is also a knit column right here. It just doesn't stand out very much yet, but I think you'll see that in a few minutes. So we definitely want to maintain those columns. Of course, that one row of purls that we did breaks the column, and that's okay. That's what it's going to do. That's what we want it to do. But for the most part, those columns, those long columns, are always going to be knitted no matter what side you're working on. So as you can see, I'm ready to start my 5-stitch repeat again, and my first 4 stitches are knit, so that continues to build that column. And that's a purl, and I'm right back at that column again for the next start of the 5-stitch repeat. And that last one is a purl. Here I am again, this column right here. Now that goes into the rib. That's not really fair. We can't count the rib. Our stitch pattern only started from here, but that's a knit. And that last stitch is purled. I'm on the wrong side of my work, evidenced by purls down here, so I'll purl this last stitch. Oh, when I turn it over, look at how many purls there are. I purled this whole row, and in this row there were 4 knits on the other side, so that means I have 4 purls on this side. So what I'm left with in a 5-stitch repeat, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm left with 1 knit on the front and 1, 2, 3, 4 purls. Then I have another knit and 4 purls. Now this one right here, if I pull these down a little bit, you can see they're knits right there, and then 4 purls. And again, whatever you do on the side that you're working on, the opposite stitch is going to present on the opposite side. So if I'm knitting on this side, it's going to show up as a purl on this side. I am on the next right side row, which is a row 3. So I'm going to knit the selvage, And I'm going to slip the markers. And now I'm going to be working knit 2, purl 3. So this is the first row of knit 2, purl 3. When I flip it over, I'm going to repeat knit 2, purl 3. Knit 2, purl 3. Making sure you keep those columns of knits and knits. In fact, that should always be the first stitch of your 5-stitch repeat. This is my last one there. So here we go. Look at this column of knits right here. And my first directions are knit 2, purl 3. So that's my 5-stitch repeat. I'm on the right side, so I knit it. Looking good. Let's flip it over. Also looking good here. It's going to be the inverse of what's on the other side. I'm on the back, so I'm going to purl first and last stitches. I'm still working through the same exact process. The same 5 stitches I'm going to repeat on this row as well. So knit 2, purl 3. I'm on the wrong side, so that's a purl. Okay, keeping those knit columns long and strong right here, only divided by that single row of purls. And you can just see that one purl stitch. I have all these knits in this column, and the only purl is right there. And that's what we want, just that one row of purls every 6 rows. Flipping it over, and you can see we are getting one less purl every row. So this is my little block, and I had the first row, it was purled the whole way. Then I ended up with 4 that were purled on this side, then 3, and then 2. And now we're going to go right back and only purl that 1. So I'm on the right side row. I'm going to knit the first 4 and just purl that last 1 in the block. Of course, I'm knitting my selvage stitch because I'm on the front. I'm going to knit the first 4 stitches in my block, and I'm just going to purl that last 1. Get to my strong and long column of knits, and that's going to start my new 5-stitch pattern repeat. First 4 are going to be those knits, and I'm just going to leave 1 purl at the end. I get to that next long and strong column of knits, and I'm going to start my knitting 4 stitches again right there, ending with that purl. I'm on the front of my work, so I'm going to knit the selvage. I only have 1 more row to go, and this is the easiest row in the whole 6 rows, and that is turn it over. You're on the wrong side of the work, and you're going to purl the selvage stitches and all the stitches in between. Nothing but purls. And I've completed that 6-row repeat again. You can see those little ice blocks starting to form. Turning it over, I know I've completed the whole little ice block because the purls go all the way across, then only 4 stitches across, 3 stitches across, 2 stitches across, 1 stitch across, and then that's it. So now what I'm going to do is reset my pattern and do my selvage stitches and knits, and all the stitches in between are going to be purled again. That's going to reset that pattern. You can start to see that there's a little bit of a layering effect going on in this direction, but also a little bit of a layering effect going on in the opposite direction. This is a very textural, 3-dimensional texture. It's very cool. Whatever you do here, the opposite is going to present on the back. So we still have the diagonals, but in this case, they are going in the opposite direction. So here's my little ice block. Here's my triangle shape of pearls and my triangle shape of knits. The pearls and the knits. And you can see the layers. And that's all just in the way that pearls want to roll into each other. When pearl columns are horizontal, they want to fold to the back. Just like in the rib stitch, you can see down here, we don't really see any pearls. We see only knits because those pearls want to fold to the back. So anytime you have a column of pearls, it's going to want to recede and hide behind the knits. But every time you have a row of pearls, that row of pearls is actually going to stand out, and the knits, the rows of knits, are going to hide behind those rows of pearls. So right here you can see we have this full row of knits, but it wants to kind of roll a little bit behind this row of pearls. And when we have a row of pearls right here, it wants to roll out over this row of knits below it. And that's another repeat. If you take a careful look at this, can you tell me what side I'm on? I'll show you the other side for comparison. Pause if you need to. Here it is. This is the right side of the work, and this is the wrong side of the work. Here you see those little pearls all along that bottom row of knit rib stitches. And here you just see that little braid that kind of swirls up and around really nicely, gives it a nice trimmed effect. Can you take a look at where I am in this stitch pattern and tell me what my next row is going to be? Let's take a close look at this. I have my little blocks right here. And I have a full row of pearls running right through here. And then these triangle shapes have decreasing pearls. So I have 5 pearls, 4 pearls, 3 pearls, 2 pearls, 1 pearl. And then above that pearl, if I give it a little tug, you can see there's a knit stitch right above it. So if I look really carefully down this whole row that's right underneath the needle, the last row I worked, I can see that that's entirely knitted. And in order to be looking at an entirely knit stitched row, on this side, where my working yarn is here ready to start, that means I finished working this row last, and that means I have an entire row of pearls that are last worked, and including my selvage stitches. So I know that this was a row 6, and that means I'm ready to start a row 1. When I see that entire row of knits on the right side of my work, then I know that I'm starting to do the pattern again, reset the pattern with a row of worked pearls on the right side. Of course, everything outside of the stitch markers is a selvage stitch. We're not counting that in the stitch pattern. I know that on the right side I'm going to knit these 2, and on the wrong side I'm going to purl these 2. What if I just got interrupted and I had to quickly abandon my knitting? I didn't write down anything and I have no idea where I am. How can I figure out where I am on this mess? Which way am I going? What row am I on? And what is my next stitch supposed to be? So the first thing to do is to find the working yarn and to figure out what needle it's coming from. Because of course in the middle of a row we want that working yarn coming from the right needle. So that's what I have here. So that's a good start. I know I was working in this direction, so I want to keep doing that. And I know that these Long and strong knit columns are the end of a block section, and I'm actually in the middle of a block section. I'm right between this long column and this long column. So that is something I know I'm in the middle of a repeat. So let's take a look at the beginning of the repeat and see what we did at the beginning of this row. I worked 2 knits, and then you can see 1, 2, 3 purls, and that got me back to this beginning stitch column, and that was 1 knit, 2 knits, and 3 purls again, and I have 2 knits and 1 purl. So I'm going to add 2 more purls to that, so I'm on a 2-3 row. So I'll just keep working my 2-3. But now the question is, was that my first 2-3 row or my second 2-3 row? Where am I in the 6 rows? I mean, I know where I was in this particular row, and that's great. But now, is that actually a row 3 or is it really a row 4? So let's turn it over and see what we can see here. I'm on the wrong side now, so I'm definitely going to purl that selvage stitch. So I could be on a 2-3 row, that's an option, or I could be on a 4-1 row. So let's see, I need to maintain the stitch pattern. So looking for purls, I have 1 purl here in this first block, and then above it I have 2 purls. So I definitely want to make it a 3 purl row right now, which means I'm going to be knitting the first 2. And now I want this knit stitch to turn into a purl. 1, 2, 3. So that has increased my purl triangle the way it should. So I'm still on a 2-3 row. I find it's always best to check one more time as you're starting the next row and just make sure that everything continues to look correct. Based on the fact that I just did 2-3 rows back to back, I'm expecting this to be a 4-1 row, and I'm going to knit 1, 2, 3, and this 4th one is a purl turning to a knit, and that means I want to keep this last one as a knit to maintain that triangle. So right here we have our knits, our whole block. This is going to be the purl triangle. And I have the 5 purls, 4 purls, 3 purls, 2 purls, and just that single purl up there. So I am correct. If I do the 4 knits and a purl on this row, I should actually complete the pattern. If I come in at this point and found this left in my bag, but I forgot to write down what row I'm on, let's take a look and try to figure out what you would do next. Well, I have blocks here and I have several rows, so that's good. I'm near the end of my pattern, but I'm maybe at the beginning of another one. So I have to look and see, do I have any purls at all on my needle? I'm looking at the right side of my work. So the question is, do I have any purls at all on my needle? If I have no purls at all, even when I tug down the stitches, then I know that I'm ready to start my reset row and start with a row 1. But if I have any purls at all, that means that I'm probably ready to start a row 6, and I have just completed a row 5. So let's go through. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 knits, and then I have this purl right here, and that really is on the needle. You can see that sitting right up top there. If I pull it down, it doesn't reveal a knit stitch behind it, so I know that that is truly a purl in this row, and I can see there are several of them, every 5th stitch actually, so that makes it pretty nice and easy. So I know I completed a 4 and 1 row. That's important. And you can see by how far I am up in the check that that is the second 4-in-1 row. I have 5 pearls, 4 pearls, 3 pearls, 2 pearls, 1 pearl. So now I'm ready to do the next row, which is purling the whole way across, row 6, but it will present as no pearls on the right side of my work because all these pearls will look like knits on the right side. I'm now in my wrong side row, and I do want to show you one thing. There's the pearls down there, and on a wrong side row, I see all these pearls right up against the needle, or it looks like they are. But when I give a little tug, you can see that a whole row of knits is actually hiding behind that row of pearls. That's because I just purled across the whole front for a row 1. So when I'm ready to start a row 2, I am looking at a full row of knits between the markers. And it is important to note that I have pearls below right here, and I'm on the wrong side. So when I see that whole row of knits that I really have to work hard to see, that's when I know I'm just starting. I'm just starting this row repeat. So based on that, I know my next one would be a 4-1 row. Again, knitting those 4 stitches on the wrong side and purling 1 means on the right side I've actually purled 4 and knitted 1. You're always getting that opposite stitch on the opposite side. Okay, let's just take a look at the beginning of this row. How do I know what row I'm on? Doesn't really matter very much, but I am on the right side. Always good to note my yarn is coming from the right needle. And I have a lot of pearls in this block. This is the block column, and I already have quite a few. So I have 5 pearls here, and then a knit stitch above it, 4 pearls. So my next one is going to be 3 pearls. So in order to make that happen, I need to knit 2 stitches and then just purl the last 3. So I'm on a 2-3 row. That will maintain the stitch pattern beautifully. On the back side, our pearls are growing. So I have no pearls, 1 pearl. I have 2 pearls here. So in this box, I want 3 pearls. So I'm going to knit only 2 and then purl these 3. And that looks right. 1, 2, 3, right there. Always measure from just underneath the needle to the cast on edge in this case. I did say 10.5 inches, and this is where I'm going to leave it. So let's do this little I-cord. In order to do that, I'm going to have you cut a 6 to 8 inch tail. We're going to weave this in later. Now for this portion of the project, you are going to need 2 double-pointed needles or a circular needle. You could get away with either, but you're going to need these in addition to what you have on your stitches now. These are really convenient. They're going to make it easier for you to work the project. I'm just going to use my double points here. So leave about 8 inches and do a long tail cast on of just 4 stitches. And that should leave you a tail long enough to weave in. Again, I'm going to do that little half hitch knot just to keep that first stitch from slipping open. So I just cast on 4 stitches on this point of the needle. And you can see that's all it is. I'm going to come down to my work, and I'm going to take that first stitch off and slide it as if to purl onto my double pointed needle. This stitch can get really big because I cut it, remember, so don't let that pull out. And now I have 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. I'm going to slide the needle through all the stitches, so the stitches are now at the opposite point. I'm going to knit. Now the working yarn is actually coming from the 4 stitch down. And that's exactly where we want it. We're going to make this circular tube of knitting. That's what an I-cord is. So the first stitch is going to be pulling the working yarn across the back of the work, and I'm going to pull that stitch a little extra tight. Then I'm going to do a second stitch and a third stitch, all knitted. Now I have 2 stitches left and there's a gap between them. I am just going to go into the back of both of these stitches and knit them together. Okay, that's okay. Do you see how big and loopy this stitch got? That's because it's cut. We're going to weave that in nice and tight, no worries. Now I'm going to come in and pick up the next stitch and slip it over as if to purl. Slide to the other end. Don't lose any of these, guys. Again, you see that yarn is coming from that 4th stitch over, and that's exactly what I want. I'm going to come in and knit the first stitch, pull it extra tight, the second stitch, the third stitch, and now I have 2 stitches here with a gap. I'm going to go into the back of both stitches and knit them. Slip one over, slide them down, knit 3 off. Pull the first 1 or 2 really tight. And then I have 2 that I'm just going to go right into the back together as one and knit them off. And you see we're getting this little tiny I-cord at the base. It's going to be a nice edge. I'm going to keep working this until I have about 2 stitches left, and then I'm going to come back and show you how to handle those stitches, how to bind this off or end this thing, and then we'll weave in our ends. If these come off or if you have to back these out, remember that you want the stitch coming from that 4th stitch over, and that's your starting spot for a row. And you do want a gap between this 4th stitch and this 5th stitch. We're actually, if you want to take a look at this, we're actually connecting this I-cord to these final stitches in your piece, and it's acting as a bind off. It's a really beautiful way to finish a piece. It gives a border and edging, it gives a weight and structure all at the same time. And it's not too hard. It takes a little bit more time, but I think it's worth it. Got so far almost done. If I only have 4, I know I need to pick up 1 more. Now I only have 2 to go. So that means I'm going to do something a little different in the next round. So I will finish this one. And now this is my last one. I'm going to treat this a little differently because I'm going to bind off at the same time that I'm going to be knitting this I-cord. So again, I got the yarn coming from the 4th stitch. I have 5 stitches. There's a little bit of a gap between the 4th and the 5th stitch. And I'm going to work through the same process, but I'm going to do a bind off in between. So here we go. In order to do a bind off, I got to work the first 2 stitches. And in this I-cord, I am knitting the first 2 stitches. I'm then going to take that first stitch and flip it over the second stitch and off the end of the needle. In my I-cord, I'm knitting the 3rd stitch. And now I'm going to bind off another stitch. And now in this part of the process of the I-cord, I need to knit 2 through the back loops. I'm going to do that. And now I'm going to bind off my last stitch. So let's just pull this up a little bit. Pull that right through. And I'm going to weave in these ends in just a minute. And That's going to make that look really pretty. But look at that beautiful finished edge inside, nice and smooth, really pretty. Now this is going to give us a little extra weight here, which I like on a bag. Sometimes bags want to flip up and do weird things when you've knitted them, and I don't like that. So I feel like that just gives that extra weight. We want to stretch that out as far as it can go, just to keep up with these stitches. I tend to knit these I-cords a little too tight sometimes. So if that's you, you can even size up a needle if that would help. Okay, taking our yarn needle, threading it. I want to see that again. You take the point of the yarn needle and you drape the end over the point, and I'm pulling it really down tight and pinching it off. You can actually see my fingers changing color. I'm putting so much pressure on that. And then you just take the eye of the needle and squash it between your fingers, and that will usually put the yarn right into the eye of the needle. You could even do that with your eyes closed. All right, this is our end, and of course we want to make it look as discreet as possible. We want to not see the yarn at all, just hide it in there. A good rule of thumb when you're weaving in yarn is equal and opposite directions. And I am going to be pulling that, I want it to be even with the selvage, so that I-cord should look pretty even with the selvage. And the selvage is going to be sewn in a little bit as well. So if I do a little extra work right in the selvage, it's probably not going to be noticeable. That's a little janky, but I think it'll be okay. Now, here's another rule of thumb. I was just about to cut my yarn, and this would be awful because it would stand out right here at the edge, and I really don't want that. So I'm going to go right back in. I'm going to start splitting some yarns in an attempt with this wool to let that felt in and stay put. And now I have two on this side. See, this kind of rolls up a little bit here, and I do want that down. So I'm going to go right in here, kind of pull that where I want it. Get that one tight, making sure everything looks pretty good. Now the cool thing about I-cords is they're essentially a hollow tube in there. So if you wanted to, you can kind of go right down the middle of that tube. Make sure you don't see it on the other side. And then you want to go up and over some of those stitches. Do you see how I've brought a few right over the needle? I've gone under these. I went over one that was here, under this one, over that one, and I'm going to bring it out. And that's kind of a fun way to end it. I'm going to go back over the one that I just came under, and I'm going to go back doing the opposite for a couple of stitches. Again, still not seeing it on the other side. That's my equal and opposite direction. And now when I pull that tight, it should disappear in there. Looks okay. One more to get rid of on this side. So here I'm tracing yarns. Going under purls, back up this way. That should be about it. If you want to, still wouldn't hurt to go up and cut that off in the I-cord. That would be okay too. One more. Here I'm on a rib, so it might just be easiest to bring it up under that. And in and out of this rib column. I'm gonna do 2 more, and I normally say never end at the selvage, but we are going to be knitting in that selvage, so I'm not too concerned. It's not going to be seen. So we have a finished bag, at least a finished strip of fabric with some rib stitch here and a finished I-cord here. I'm looking at the wrong side of the fabric, so I'm going to be laying that down right there and cutting about an 18-inch strip of yarn or so, threading up the needle again, and we are going to be doing a mattress stitch. This is a mighty little project with lots of technique and skill built in. So I think that's where I'm going to place it. I'm going to leave folding it up 4.5 inches. So that's right about 4.5 from the cast on edge to the fold. And I am going to start mattress stitching from this corner up. Right about here is where I'm going to be folding this down and continuing to mattress stitch right here. I do want these little natural lines to kind of fold up. I like that, so that's what I want to see. I may take my removable stitch markers and just pin that in place so I know what I was intending to do, making sure they're about even. So let's do a mattress stitch. I have white yarn. You will use the same color yarn, but I wanted you to see a little bit better what I was doing. So again, you can see this selvage edge that we did, this single selvage, and that creates a chain running right along the edge the whole way. And we are going to be working with the needle right below that chain. So I'm not going into the chain, I'm going right below the chain. There's the chain at the top, and I'm just going right underneath of it. So on a mattress stitch, if you want to take a look at my mattress stitch demo video, that may be a little bit more helpful, but I am going to try to explain a lot in here. I am going to start right at the point, and I'm going to go down with my needle and up right under the chain, and I'm going to make sure I catch 2 yarns in there. Pull it up, leaving a good tail so I don't pull it through. And I'm going to do the same thing on the back of the bag. I need to be really careful though that I do not split my yarn that I'm using to stitch with. Okay, so now I'm coming out here. I'm going to go right across to the front of the bag, and I'm going to go down and up, picking up 2 threads right under the chain stitch. like that. I'm going to pull that through, and you're going to see this yarn is going to start to come over top of the selvages. Now I'm going to go to the back of the bag, and I'm going to go down and up, making sure I catch 2 yarns at least, usually just 2, right under the selvage stitch, and pull it out. And you can see, when I get that tail out of the way, that this is starting to lace in. You could think of it as lacing shoes almost. It's going up over the opening that we want to close. Coming back over to the front of the bag, I'm going to go down and up, right under the chain stitch. And bringing that over the top. Go into the back of the bag. Down and up, 2 threads, right under the chain. Coming to the front. Same thing. Now the idea here is that you want to evenly space your yarns. You want to keep it even. I need to end here. I don't want it to be all skewed or have this big pile of extra knitting here because I kind of offset my rows. I want to basically be taking a stitch here and evenly a stitch on the opposite side. So keeping all of this even. If you want to, you can take some stitch markers or pins and pin down maybe where the rows end. You can see these little bumps through here. That would be keeping your stitching even. You can see where that pattern, every 6 rows kind of was another break. So you might want to try to keep those even and put some marks in there for you to make sure you don't get off track. Or you can just visually check to make sure that you're on track. Never split your yarn because it will lock that mattress stitch yarn into place. And we need that yarn to move. You'll see in a few minutes what's going to happen, but all this is going to disappear. But it can only disappear if this yarn that I'm working with now, the stitching yarn, can move freely. And if I split my yarn with my needle, like if I go in here and do this, that would lock it and then game over. You're going to have to pull all that out and start again. Okay, once we get a little way down the line, now remember, I'm going to be folding this down over top. And now I'm going to be working all 3 together. So before I start that, I'm going to show you what's going to happen with this. I'm going to pull, I'm going to hold this side, kind of make sure that this is held steady, make sure these yarns are up over the top of my work, like that. I'm going to hold this steady and I'm going to pull on this side. And if all goes well, these yarns will just disappear. And create a beautiful mattress stitched seam. So that's all there is to it. At this base, I'm just going to pop this in. There we go. That'll look better. And you can see that when I do this, that selvage edge is pulled to the inside of the work. That's why you always work on the outside of a mattress stitch, because it just pulls it right in. I'm going to actually turn this inside out for you real quick so you can see that seam. These are the selvage stitches that we created, both right here sitting, and that is my seam allowance, or those selvage stitches. So it makes it really nice. It just hides it really nicely. And if you're working in the same color, you wouldn't even see those little guys at all. They would just completely disappear. So now that you're a pro, let's take it up a notch and do 3 at once. So I'm going to fold that down and work now with all 3 layers at the same time. I want these 2 top layers to basically act as one. So I am just going to bring this right up through here and act as though this came up in this stitch. See how I just added 1 more layer to that last stitch. Now I'm going to go over here and do what I've been doing. Go under those 2 threads, right under the chain selvage. Come right over here. And now this is where I want both layers to act as one. So I'm going to go down and through both layers right under the selvage. And then I'm going to make a hard turn here. And if I need to, I can do 1 layer at a time, making sure I get 2 stitches. And come up that way. And right across. And go back. Again, don't cross your thread. I went in the same hole here, and I'm just checking to make sure that I did not pierce this yarn when I went in with this stitch, because that, again, will lock the chain. You can see how much movement you have to have. Just going to lace those a little bit tighter for now. Might have to roll. I'd have to roll that selvage out a little bit just to get under it. No worries. Through that one, up under that layer, 2 threads, and up under this layer. Looks about right. At this point, I'm going to take out my marker. It's getting in my way. There's not too much I can do here except pull right up through here. So get rid of that marker. Right up through there. Almost to the end, just 2 more stitches or so. I have run out of one last stitch out of that rib section. And possibly one more stitch here. I think that's going to be it. So let me pull this in for you. Again, I'm going to anchor here. It helps to pull against something solid and see if we can get this to turn in. You want to use really hardy yarn because you don't want this yarn to snap. So I do not recommend a single ply yarn, even if you used a single ply for your project. And this is a lot tighter because I have those other layers sewn in. And there you go. We have a nice mattress stitch seam coming right down here. Even with the white contrasting yarn, it really disappears. I'm going to go ahead and weave in these ends inside. I'm going to do the other side exactly the same way, only I'm going to be using the yarn I actually worked my project in. And then I'm going to show you how we're going to make this useful. So there's the finished product. I just sewed up this other side. And you can see that it makes a pretty nice seamless transition with the mattress stitch. This was done with the white. You can see a little bit here and there, but when you use the blue, completely disappears. So here's our little bag, and the way you use this is just to flip this inside out, and then you can completely access that space and then flip it back over. Just to keep an extra set of tissues around. You could keep a whole pile of goodies in there. In this project, we learned some new skills. We reviewed working through the cast on and a 1x1 rib. We worked through a new stitch pattern, perhaps a new stitch pattern for you that only uses knits and purls. I showed you how to do an I cord as a bind off, so you have that beautiful I cord that gives a lot of weight and keeps that edge from rolling. And then again demonstrated how to do a mattress stitch on both sides of this little bag. So I hope that was a fun project. Please let me know in the comments what you found that fit in this size bag. This is also a bag that's easy to resize. So if you wanted to experiment with larger needles and larger yarn, or smaller needles and smaller yarn, I'm sure you could come up with lots of different sizes of bags. In the near future, I am planning to show you how to make an actual pull from the center tissue bag, so that would actually be able to use this center flap. But for now, I hope you enjoyed.